Hawks on the Wire is a podcast produced by Three Hawks Haven, an e-card company where love, kindness, and connection are designed in each e-card. The story you're about to hear, shared by Joan's guest, will be a story from someone's life, their personal experience. By learning from stories just like this, Three Hawks Haven is able to create beautiful and moving e-cards that can really touch someone's heart. In times of celebration or in the tougher times of life, Three Hawks Haven has e-cards for most any occasion, including some you just can't find anywhere else. You can shop for all their e-cards by going to their website, threehawkshaven.com. Now to Hawks on the Wire with your host, Joan.
Hi, my name is Joan, and I am your host for Hawks on the Wire, brought to you by Three Hawks Haven. And I will be introducing our guest, Maria. Okay, there you are, Maria. How you doing, beautiful girl?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. And you're going to talk to us today. You're an activity director at a resident that the elderly live in and the impact that the COVID-19 virus has had on them and, of course, all of us, but particularly your residents. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Maria Bertrand. I've worked with the elderly at a long-term facility for almost 16 years in different departments throughout their home. And I have a strong devotion to them. They're very special to me. It's more like a family than going to work every day. Um, During this time is especially important to be able to connect with them on a more personal level since they can't be with their own families. So
Yes, that has to be hard for them. What have you all come up with to help them be in touch with their families?
we have started with technology with Zoom or FaceTime to be able to talk to their families. We have at least 5 or 6 residents that are involved in this weekly, that we schedule a meeting and then they get to talk with their people, whether they're in town or out of town, which is more than they would have been able to see their family member before all this happened. And then, they get to talk for maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes a week. And then if they want to talk on the phone later, that's good too. If they're in town, we also have the availability for them to come see them through our windows in the home, and they can come with their cell phone and visit with them. And it does make a difference to be able to physically see their family instead of using a telephone over, however many feet or distance that they might be traveling. um, but it's still not the same. To have that physical contact with them is quite a struggle. We did have once or twice the opportunity to have the families come into the building when the virus was slowing down over the summer, and they were able to sit 6 feet apart, wear masks, and be able to physically be with their family members. And some of the residents said just having them in the same room as them made them feel much more connected to their family member, even if they couldn't physically touch them. Like just having their spirit and their presence there made a huge difference. Other residents said that was harder on them because they were there and it was almost like a tease that they couldn't touch them. Having that rule in place, with caution tape so many feet apart, just really put it into reality of how bad things really are. Um,
Do the residents tell you how they feel? They'll talk to you and tell you how they feel about it. And
They do. We're definitely there to help them through the grief. They understand why we're having all these precautions so that they are safe. But it's definitely much harder than we expected it to be. We never thought it would last this long. Um, Sometimes they feel like it's the home making all these rules that are causing them from being able to be with their family, and we assure them it's not. It comes from a higher level of authority than just us. But overall, we want them to be as safe as possible.
Well,
um,
I understand. And then they understand. You all communicate with them about that.
right, right. We try to keep them busy, so they're not just sitting there thinking about it, um, day in and day out. But there are days that are harder, especially with the holidays coming up,
Hmm.
that they can't just go outside and jump in a car and drive away.
Right. You told me, we were talking earlier, and you told me that you all had like a little Halloween parade outside the building. How did that go?
That was a lot of fun. Yes, on Halloween, it was a beautiful Saturday. So they were able to invite their family members and other schools over this area, around the city, and they were able to come and dress up in costumes and socially distance themselves from other people and walk the premises of the building. But luckily, we only have a one floor facility, so everyone was able to be at an exterior window, safely distanced from other people, and see the children, whether they were family members or total strangers. But just seeing the kids light up when they saw the residents and vice versa was really special.
So that
Um,
would be fun. So they would sit at the window, and the children would be parading outside the building and waving.
right,
And, oh, that was a great idea.
right. And then at the end, we had a table of already bagged up candy at the front porch. So after they went around to see all the residents, then they got, a bag of treats for themselves. And with the virus so bad around the city, some families didn't feel comfortable trick or treating at night, going from house to house. So it was a benefit from both sides. We got to see the children, and it was a safe haven for all the other families to be able to say, well, this is as safe as it's going to get. Let's just go and make the elderly happy and also get some candy out of it. So it
Well,
was fun.
you had told me a little story about one of your residents, and my heart just went out to her, how she wanted to see her Shirley Ann, her daughter. Do you remember
Right.
that?
Yes, yes. One resident in particular, she is having a hard time not being able to be around her family member, her daughter. Luckily, during that Halloween trick or treating, her son came with his children and grandchildren, and it just lit up her life. Her spirit really changed. Whether she knew who all the people were, because she does have some type of Alzheimer's disease, she was still able to recognize her son, and for the moment, it made her happy. Later on, she again went back to the feeling of being neglected or not not remembered by her family. But for that brief second of them visiting, definitely helped.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard when you want to be there for them. You try to make them feel as important as you possibly can, but we're not what they're wanting. When they want their family, it's hard to engage them in anything else.
Sure, and they used to be able to leave the building if they were physically able, and the families could take them out, and they can no
Exactly.
longer do that. That's got to be hard.
It is hard. Yeah, definitely hard. Yeah.
And what do you think they miss the most? We were talking about that. You said your hairdresser did get to come back in, and of course, that was very important.
Right. They went from March until maybe September without a hairdresser. Um, and so, just their dignity and their self-esteem really went down with their hair getting longer and not being able to have a set, or their hair curled, really made a difference. Once we actually were able to hire a new hairdresser, from everything that went down. People are just scared to come into a nursing home right now. So the hairdresser we did had didn't work out. And so being able to find a new one during this time of struggle, made a huge difference. but just seeing their light and their little bodies light up, it was just really, really special. It didn't take a whole lot to make them happy, but being able to have something that they can control
Mm-hmm.
and say, this is how I want it done, put them back into, this is my schedule for the day. It made a difference.
Very good. And I know you told they cannot eat together in the dining room, or they cannot really gather. They miss those times.
They do. No, they haven't been able to have a meal together since March, and they eat all their meals in their rooms, which they say they miss that. They want to gather again in the dining rooms. We have it all ready and set up. We thought a few weeks ago we were ready to begin bringing them back in and having only one at a table. But it just, once we thought we were going to be good to go, that's when the virus took another toll, or we would have a positive case of a staff member. And so that would put us back 28 days from being able to engage with the residents and socially connected. One thing we did have, which was pretty neat, was we had an opportunity once a week or twice a week, while it was warm outside, we'd have small dinners outdoors. And so they were able to sit 6 feet apart and have about 10 people come with tents and tables and just have like a picnic lunch
Oh, good.
outside. And you would have thought that was, like a birthday dinner or something really, really special, even though it was the same food that they were eating inside their rooms. It just lit up their world to be able to sit with somebody else. They couldn't always hear each other being a little bit further apart, but just being able to know that they weren't alone really made a difference.
Very good. You are painting such a good picture. I can kind of visualize in my mind, these residents and what they're feeling and how they are physically having to stay apart, and never had to do that before, huh?
No, definitely not this long. Or, when they go around, they can come out of their rooms, they can engage with the staff or walk down the hall and go to the library or whatever. But whenever they try to get too close to another resident or just say hello, we always have to put them in different spots again or remind them, where's your mask? Don't touch each other,
Yeah.
use sanitizer, that type of thing. And so, we're just kind of like the germ police instead of,
Yes.
a companion, I guess, right now.
And you all have a little chapel there too, and they miss that. They do not get together for the chapel time.
Right. We haven't had a priest be able to come in to celebrate Mass since March. And I keep telling them, it's bad when we can't have a priest come in. Like, that would be the first thing that we're allowed to do. And if we can't do that, then everything else is going to be put on hold.
Miss that.
It's a religious order that we work for. And so, the value of having a spiritual director or a God to work for, and to not be able to have him with us in that way is definitely hard.
It is hard. And I'm sure they share that with you, Maria, how they feel. And
They do. Yeah.
And how have you been doing about this, with your role as you're such a great caregiver with them? How have you been doing?
Well, it's been challenging. It has, trying to come up with activities that they can still engage in, but socially distanced from other people, has been quite challenging, because a lot of the times when you have group activities, it's, where you're sitting around having a discussion, but when they can't see each other or they're sitting 6 feet apart, sometimes it's 10 or 12 feet apart. If there's a few people in between, they can't hear what the other person's saying. So you're having to do the same activity at least 3 or 4 different times, if not more, to make it worthwhile. It does get burned out. Plus, you want to still look like they're the most important, that this is exciting for them. And it can just get really worn out by the end of the activity. You're bringing everything to their rooms instead of them coming to you, to a group event. It's just a lot of eye-opening perspective of, being grateful for what we did have and how can we make it similar to that now.
Yes, very good. And I love how you said you feel like really they're part of your family. You had told me that you just feel really honored to be able
Yeah,
to help them and work with them.
right. It is more than just place of work or an employment. And during this time of being able to connect with them and be the only person that they get to be around, I mean, besides like the nurses and the other staff members, knowing that they can't see their family, it is a great honor to be with them. We had one lady that passed away not too long ago, and when that happens, the family is allowed to come in and be with them in their room. They gown up, they glove up, and mask up, and then they're allowed to enter the building. But to be able to be with them during that time is more special than I think I realized at the beginning. To be able to come in without any question. You still have to take your temperature and everything like that and wear a mask, but to be allowed to come into their room or into their presence is pretty honorable. So
What would you advise, the families, our listeners that are listening to you? Do you have any tips for them? They really don't do email, most of your residents.
Not normally, no. Some of them would enjoy a card. We did have one group of students from Presentation High School here in town. They made like little flowers. They were like, what is it? Like paper flowers, and then they were brought in to the residents. We quarantined the flowers for a few days, but even after 2 or 3 weeks of them having them in their rooms, they just light up every time they see them.
Oh, that's
It's more than just a card that can be put into a drawer. And they're beautiful. They really did a really nice job on them.
And then you mentioned Zoom. You do get to Zoom and the telephone. And families can go to the window every day if they want to, or?
Sure, yes. Now that it's getting colder, it'll be even harder for them to connect in that way. But it's still an option. And so we need to let that still happen. Yeah.
What about the residents? Have they given you any kind of, I'm wondering, like any pearls of wisdom about how to handle this? They've been through a lot of things too. Most of them are a little elderly, correct?
They are, yeah. Like one lady in particular, she doesn't see it as such a big deal. She's like, we've been through so many other things and we get through that too. But it's hard to bring her back to reality that this is a big problem, that there's a chance that we could all get sick or they could die. And she's like, well, we're going to go anyway. I'm like, well, you have to at least try. Like, we have to, like, your family would be mad and we would be upset if something happened to you. But as for wisdom, most of them understand. They understand where we're coming from. And they're just willing to go with whatever needs to happen to get back to normal.
Isn't that wonderful? They're such strong people, huh?
Right.
Well, do you have anything else you would like to add, or?
I guess just to keep them in your prayers during this holiday season, as they won't be able to get out to see their families. Mm-hmm. I try to share with them that I myself am not going to be with family either for the holidays, and they do mention that I get to go home and be with my children and with my husband, and that's different to have a break from it. But to tell them that the holidays are pretty much not going to happen this year. I mean, we'll do our best to make them enjoy the holidays there,
right,
in their home, but not to be able to go out and be with other people. They just need prayers. They need a lot to remember what they're grateful for during this harder time.
Mm-hmm. I understand. And thank you, Maria. You are just really an amazing, beautiful girl. And I love your attitude and your love for those residents. I can tell they are like family to you.
Yes, they are.
And you're just so creative with helping them feel loved. So you keep up your good work.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate you, and I appreciate our listeners out there joining us again. I did want to mention, if any of our listeners would like to send email or their name, go to Three Hawks Haven, and perhaps you'll have a story you would like to tell here on our podcast on Hawks on the Wire. And remember, when we share our humanity, we share the possibility to heal. Thank you so much.